10 secrets they don't tell you. The greatest battles of life are not fought in visible arenas, but in the silent territory of the mind. Every thought that enters carries the power to shape your choices, your emotions, and even your destiny. If left unguarded, the mind becomes a breeding ground for fear and confusion, but when renewed by the Spirit, it becomes a place of peace, clarity, and unshakable strength. In a world drowning in noise and distraction, this renewal is not optional. It is the only way to live free. Transformation does not begin with circumstances changing around you. It begins inside, in the place where your thoughts are formed. Just as a storm can rage outside while calm exists within, the Spirit creates stillness that defies chaos. Through this journey, we will uncover 10 unseen truths that the Spirit uses to renew the mind. Each one exposes what holds you back and replaces it with wisdom, clarity, and freedom. Let us step into the first truth, the starting point of all renewal, the battlefront of the mind. The battlefront of the mind. Every person carries battles within that no one else can see. On the surface, life may appear calm, yet deep inside a war is being fought in the unseen arena of thought. This battleground is where temptation begins, where fear tries to take root, and where doubt whispers its poison. Before any action is taken, before any word is spoken, a thought is conceived. That thought is either planted by truth or by deception. The adversary knows that if he can win over your thinking, he can shape your life without ever lifting a hand. Lies repeated often enough begin to feel like truth, and subtle compromises become accepted as normal. A defeated mindset produces a defeated life. But a renewed mind, anchored in the Spirit, can walk in victory even when circumstances seem against you. This war cannot be fought with human weapons. It's fought with awareness, with truth, and with the Spirit's guidance. The world offers temporary strategies for positive thinking, but these are fragile compared to the power of renewal. The Spirit does not encourage empty optimism. He equips you to think truthfully. Truth dismantles deception, and deception is the only real power the enemy holds. Imagine a soldier walking into battle without realizing war has already begun. He is quickly overtaken, not because he lacks strength, but because he lacked awareness. Many live this way, unaware that the battle is not against external pressures, but against their own thought life. Awareness is the first weapon, yet awareness alone is not enough. The Spirit teaches us to take every thought captive, to test it against truth, and to discard what does not align with peace. When fear rises, the Spirit reminds us that fear does not belong. When shame whispers, He speaks of freedom. Each time you align your thoughts with truth, you secure victory on the battlefield of the mind. Over time, this battleground shifts. It becomes less a place of constant struggle and more a place of confidence, where the Spirit's voice grows louder and deception loses its grip. The mind that once felt like an enemy becomes a partner in freedom. And this is where renewal begins. The weight of unspoken memories. Memories are not just shadows of the past. They are active forces that influence how you see yourself and how you live today. Some memories lift you up, filling your heart with gratitude. Others weigh you down, pressing silently against your confidence and hope. The heaviest memories are often the ones left unspoken, the moments that you never told anyone about, but that echo inside you still. They do not vanish with time. Instead, they hide in the background, shaping how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to the world around you. It is often the quietest moments that leave the loudest marks. A single comment, an unnoticed betrayal, or a disappointment you never admitted out loud can become the lens through which you see your future. Without realizing it, you carry these impressions into every new opportunity. You hesitate to trust because of betrayal. You downplay your worth because of one humiliating failure. You expect rejection because you once experienced it so deeply. The memory becomes the architect of your perspective, silently designing walls you did not even know were being built. The danger lies in their silence. Because no one else can see them, you convince yourself they no longer matter, yet the evidence is everywhere. You find anger rising in places it doesn't belong. You shrink back from opportunities, even when you are capable. You replay mistakes that no longer exist, except in your own mind. These hidden memories may not control every thought, but they create an atmosphere, a weight that follows you into every new season. The Spirit does not leave these places untouched. He does not expose them to shame you, but to free you. He knows that the pain you keep buried continues to drain you. So he brings it gently to the surface, asking you not to relive it, but to release it. Healing does not mean erasing the memory. It means stripping it of the power to define you. The moment you allow him to touch these places, the weight begins to lift. What once felt like an anchor becomes a testimony of resilience. What once told you that you would never move forward becomes the very evidence that you can. The choice to face unspoken memories is difficult, but it is also where renewal begins to take root. Avoidance keeps you locked in cycles of pain, but surrender opens the door to freedom. The Spirit does not demand that you forget. He offers you the ability to move forward without carrying chains. He takes the echoes of the past and rewrites them as reminders of his presence, even in the moments you thought you were alone. Over time, these memories lose their sharpness. They no longer dominate your thoughts or dictate your identity. You begin to see them differently, not as scars that disfigure you, but as places where light broke through. And in that perspective shift, your mind grows stronger, lighter, and freer. The weight of unspoken memories was never meant to crush you. It was meant to be surrendered, so that what once limited you becomes the ground where transformation begins. The hidden energy of focus is the invisible thread that ties your thoughts to your reality. Whatever you give it to grows stronger, larger, and more influential in your life. It is not neutral, and it is never idle. Focus acts like a magnifying glass, intensifying whatever it rests upon. If you dwell on fear, fear multiplies. If you continually rehearse discouragement, it deepens. But if you direct your attention toward gratitude, hope, and truth, those qualities expand until they reshape the atmosphere of your entire mind. Most people underestimate this hidden energy. They assume their wandering thoughts are harmless, yet the consistent direction of attention quietly builds the framework of their identity. The stories you tell yourself and the ideas you revisit again and again are constructing the life you will live tomorrow. The power of focus is not measured in a single thought, but in the repetition of where you choose to place your mental energy. Distraction is the thief of transformation. Every day you are surrounded by endless demands for your focus. Devices that buzz, headlines that scream, comparisons that whisper. Each one competes for the energy that could have been invested in peace, growth, and clarity. Distractions appear harmless, but they drain the very resource that determines who you are becoming. This is why people often feel restless or unfulfilled. It is not that they lack potential, it is that their focus has been scattered across too many empty places. The Spirit redeems this energy by calling you to discipline your attention. Instead of scattering it across noise, He directs it toward what produces life. Gratitude, prayer, and reflection are not empty rituals. They are exercises that train your focus to rest on what is stable instead of what is temporary. Each time you shift attention from fear to peace, from bitterness to forgiveness, you are redirecting energy from destruction to renewal. Over time, these choices accumulate, reshaping not only how you think, but how you live. The transformation is gradual but undeniable. A person who once lived in anxiety begins to notice peace becoming their default. Someone who once replayed mistakes finds themselves rehearsing promises instead. The terrain of life may remain the same, but the energy fueling the journey changes. Focus stops feeding despair and starts fueling resilience. The hidden energy of focus is your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. Where you direct it determines the quality of your inner world and the strength of your spirit. When surrendered to the spirit, focus becomes a weapon against lies, a shield against distraction, and a tool for transformation. You cannot control everything that happens around you, but you can choose where to direct the energy of your mind, and that choice has the power to change everything. The mirror of self-dialogue. Every person carries an inner voice that speaks louder and more often than the voices around them. This self-dialogue shapes the way you interpret your life, your challenges, and your worth. It is like a mirror you hold up to yourself, reflecting back not only what you see, but what you believe to be true. The problem is that this mirror is often cracked. It shows distortions, exaggerations, and shadows rather than reality. You may think you are only thinking to yourself, but those thoughts become the script by which you live. The language you use internally has the power to either build you up or break you down. If the mirror constantly reflects, "I am not enough," it does not matter how much affirmation you receive from others. The inner voice will always override it. If your mirror reflects only failure, even small mistakes become proof of defeat. The inner dialogue becomes prophecy, predicting how you will respond and limiting what you believe is possible. Many ignore this voice because it feels private and harmless. But what is whispered inside eventually directs actions outside. A harsh inner critic produces hesitation, avoidance, or burnout. A compassionate inner voice produces resilience, confidence, and persistence. The difference is not just psychological, it is spiritual. The spirit longs to train your inner voice to echo truth rather than distortion, to reflect dignity rather than shame. Changing the mirror begins with awareness. Too often you speak words to yourself that you would never dare say to another person. You repeat accusations that drain you, forgetting that these words are shaping your perception of life. The spirit interrupts this cycle, offering a better reflection. Where your dialogue says, "You are weak," he whispers, "You are being strengthened." Where you say, "I always fail," he responds, "You are being refined." The reflection shifts when you allow his truth to become the language of your self-dialogue. This is not about repeating empty affirmations. It's about aligning your inner language with reality as God defines it. Over time, each shift in dialogue polishes the mirror. Shame loses its sharp edge, fear loses its grip, and your inner reflection becomes clearer. You begin to see yourself not through the cracks of past lies, but through the clarity of renewed truth. The mirror of self-dialogue cannot be ignored because it is always speaking. The question is whether it is reflecting lies that imprison you or truth that frees you. By surrendering your inner voice to the spirit, you create a mirror that no longer distorts, but reveals who you truly are, capable, resilient, and being transformed day by day. And once the mirror is repaired, the reflection that guides your life leads you into peace and strength. The storm of inner noise. There are few things more exhausting than a mind that refuses to be still. Even in silence, noise fills the inner world. Unfinished tasks, unresolved conflicts, fears of tomorrow, memories of yesterday. It is like standing in the middle of a storm that never passes. The body may be at rest, but the mind races, replaying scenarios and rehearsing problems. This storm of inner noise drains energy, clouds judgment, and drowns out the voice of peace. Noise is deceptive because it feels productive. You convince yourself that by worrying you are preparing, by replaying conversations you are finding clarity, by imagining outcomes you are gaining control. But in reality, the storm accomplishes nothing except exhaustion. Clarity never comes from endless overthinking. It comes from quiet. Strength is not born in chaos, but in stillness. The storm steals what it promises to give. Many live with this storm so long that it feels normal. They wake with a rush of thoughts and fall asleep only after the mind collapses from fatigue. They confuse activity with progress and noise with direction. But progress is impossible when your inner compass is spinning out of control. The spirit's renewal requires quiet because truth cannot be heard when the mind is flooded with distractions. This is why stillness is a discipline, not an accident. To calm the storm, you must make a choice. To pause, to step away, to breathe deeply, and refuse the constant pull of distraction. Stillness does not mean emptiness. It is not about shutting off the mind, but about creating space for clarity to rise. In stillness, the spirit reorganizes tangled thoughts, restores balance, and reminds you of what matters most. The transformation that follows is subtle but powerful. The storm begins to lose its authority. Thoughts still come, but they no longer shout. They pass like clouds across the sky. Decisions that once felt impossible become clear. Fears that once felt overwhelming shrink in size. The noise may not vanish forever, but it no longer rules. You discover a steady center, an inner calm that the outside world cannot touch. Learning to quiet the storm is not about escaping life's pressures, but about carrying peace into them. The Spirit equips you to stand in the middle of chaos with a still heart, to face demands without losing perspective, to handle pressure without drowning in noise. This kind of peace is not fragile, it is strong, rooted and unshaken. The storm of inner noise will always try to rise again, but every time you return to stillness, you weaken its grip. Over time, silence becomes familiar, clarity becomes normal, and peace becomes your resting state. This is the renewal of the mind, not the absence of problems, but the presence of calm in the middle of them. The redefinition of weakness. Weakness is a word that carries fear for many. It suggests vulnerability, failure, or exposure. From early on, the world teaches you to mask it, to push it aside, to cover it with effort and appearance. You learn to project strength even when you are unraveling inside. Yet the harder you try to conceal weakness, the heavier it becomes. It turns into a private burden, something you carry in silence while presenting confidence to the world. The Spirit approaches weakness with an entirely different perspective. What you have been taught to despise is the very place He chooses to begin His work. Weakness is not a flaw to hide, but an opening for transformation. When you reach the end of your own ability, you discover the strength that cannot be manufactured by human effort. This paradox is at the heart of renewal. The very areas where you feel most fragile become the spaces where resilience is formed. Think about how much energy is wasted in pretending. You fight to look unbreakable, to maintain control, to prove you can handle everything on your own. But this image of perfection creates only exhaustion. You were never designed to carry the illusion of invincibility. True strength begins not in denial, but in surrender. It's the moment you admit that you cannot do it all, that you create room for a strength greater than your own to rise within you. Redefining weakness means shifting your perspective from shame to opportunity. Struggles do not prove you are a failure. They reveal where growth is waiting. Limitations do not make you less valuable. They direct you toward dependence on wisdom beyond your own. Instead of crushing you, weakness becomes a compass that points you back to the source of renewal. Each time you encounter your limits, you are reminded that you were never meant to rely only on yourself. Over time, this redefinition frees you from fear. You no longer see weakness as evidence that you are inadequate, but as proof that you are human and therefore open to transformation. The Spirit takes the areas you once despised and uses them as foundations for resilience. What once made you insecure becomes the reason you walk with humility and authenticity. What once held you back becomes the place where you rise stronger than before. The renewal of the mind does not erase weakness, it reframes it. Weakness becomes the doorway through which true strength enters. By letting go of the exhausting need to appear flawless, you discover peace. By surrendering your need to control, you find freedom. And by allowing weakness to be redefined, you learn that you are not diminished by your struggles, but expanded by them. The currency of attention. Attention is one of the most precious assets you possess. Unlike material wealth, it cannot be stored away for later use. Every moment you are spending it, and the return you receive depends entirely on where it is invested. This makes attention a currency far more powerful than money, because while money buys things, attention shapes the person you are becoming. The challenge is that most people spend this currency carelessly. Hours slip away scrolling through images, worrying about what cannot be changed, or replaying conversations that cannot be undone. Each of these drains attention without offering anything of lasting value in return. The result is an inner poverty. Not because life is lacking, but because attention has been poured into what depletes rather than what restores. Where you direct your attention builds the atmosphere of your mind. Focus on fear, and fear becomes stronger. Dwell on bitterness, and bitterness grows deeper roots. But when you give your attention to gratitude, gratitude multiplies. When you invest in truth, clarity expands. Attention has the power to transform, but only if it is directed intentionally. The Spirit teaches you to treat attention with reverence. He shows you that it is not neutral, but sacred, a daily offering that determines whether your inner life thrives or withers. By guiding attention away from noise and toward what brings peace, He reshapes the landscape of your mind. In this process, even small choices matter. 1 minute of reflection on gratitude outweighs an hour of replaying fear. A single act of focusing on truth weakens the grip of lies. Learning to guard your attention requires discipline. You must ask yourself daily, where am I investing this currency? What voices am I funding with my focus? Are they voices of hope or voices of despair? Every choice either enriches or depletes you. And over time, those investments compound, shaping not just your mood for a moment, but the direction of your life. When attention is surrendered, it becomes a tool of renewal. It trains your mind to filter out distractions and magnify what matters. It creates space for peace to grow where chaos once reigned. It builds resilience by fueling thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken you. And the more you align your attention with truth, the more abundant your inner world becomes. The currency of attention is limited but powerful. You cannot afford to spend it recklessly. Choose to invest it in what is lasting, and it will return to you in clarity, peace, and strength that no circumstance can take away. The unseen map of perspective is like a hidden map that shapes how you interpret and respond to the world. The terrain of life is the same for everyone, yet the way you walk through it depends on the map you carry in your mind. Two people can face the same challenge, but one sees only dead ends, while the other discovers a path forward. What determines the difference is not the circumstance, but the perspective that interprets it. The danger lies in the fact that most maps are inherited without question. They are drawn by family expectations, cultural messages, painful memories, and personal failures. Without realizing it, you begin to navigate life according to boundaries and landmarks that were never truly yours. You avoid risks because your map warns that failure is inevitable. You shrink back from opportunities because your map insists that you do not belong. These perspectives feel permanent, but they are only sketches made by past experiences, not absolute truths. The Spirit renews the mind by redrawing this map. He erases boundaries that were based on fear and expands paths you never thought possible. He shifts your view so that obstacles become opportunities, detours become preparation, and waiting seasons become times of growth. With each adjustment, the map opens up, revealing a landscape filled with possibilities you once ignored. Perspective has the power to reframe everything. A trial seen through the lens of despair feels unbearable, but the same trial seen through the lens of purpose becomes a lesson in resilience. Scarcity tells you there will never be enough, so you live guarded and afraid. Abundance tells you that provision can come even in barren places, so you act with courage and generosity. The terrain is unchanged, but the perspective transforms how you experience it. This renewal requires trust. It means allowing the spirit to challenge perspectives you have held for years. It means admitting that the map you have been using may not lead where you truly want to go. It requires the humility to surrender familiar paths for unfamiliar ones, confident that his map leads to freedom, clarity, and peace. When perspective shifts, endurance rises. You stop measuring success only by outcomes and begin to value growth in the process. You stop labeling delays as failures and start seeing them as preparation. You stop assuming that closed doors are rejection and start recognizing them as redirection. The map you once followed out of fear is replaced with one drawn by hope. With a renewed perspective, you do not deny challenges, but you no longer let them define you. You carry a map that shows more than obstacles. It shows hidden roads, unseen possibilities, and a horizon filled with promise. And with that map, you walk into life not with hesitation, but with courage. The sacred exchange of desire. Desire is one of the deepest forces shaping the human heart. It is not neutral. It pulls you forward, directs your energy, and determines where your efforts are spent. Entire lives are built around desire. Desire for security, for recognition, for love, for success. Yet desire can be dangerous when it is misaligned. Left unchecked, it becomes a restless hunger that is never satisfied, always demanding more while delivering less. Many people live enslaved to misplaced desires. A longing for approval keeps them bound to the opinions of others. A thirst for control leaves them anxious in a world they cannot master. A drive for success pushes them endlessly forward, yet the finish line always moves further away. In each case, desire promises fulfillment, but delivers emptiness. This is why so many find themselves exhausted, not from lack of effort, but from chasing after the wrong things. The Spirit does not ask you to kill desire. He calls you to exchange it. He takes the hunger that keeps you restless and redirects it toward what truly satisfies. When surrendered, desire transforms. Instead of seeking validation from others, you begin to desire alignment with truth. Instead of craving control, you long for deeper trust. Instead of grasping for more, you discover a longing for depth and meaning. This sacred exchange does not destroy desire, it redeems it. Consider how different life becomes when desire is reshaped. You no longer pursue achievements as if they prove your worth. Instead, you pursue them with peace, knowing your worth is already secure. You still dream, build, and grow, but ambition no longer controls you. It becomes an expression of freedom rather than a desperate search for fulfillment. This exchange also transforms your restlessness. Where once you chase satisfaction in temporary things, now you find joy in what endures. Relationships are no longer pressured to fill the void because you have discovered a deeper source. Success is no longer the measure of your value because you carry peace regardless of outcome. Desires that once enslaved you now serve you, pointing you toward the life you were created to live. The sacred exchange of desire is not a one-time event, but a daily surrender. Each day, you are invited to place your longings in the hands of the Spirit, trusting Him to reshape them for your good. Some desires He will fulfill, others He will redirect, and still others He will expand into something greater than you imagined. Over time, you realize that what you truly longed for was never the thing itself, but the deeper peace, joy, and love that only He provides. In surrendering desire, you do not lose yourself. You discover your truest self, no longer restless, no longer enslaved, but alive with purpose, guided by desires that are aligned with life, hope, and truth. The crown of a transformed mind. A transformed mind is not simply the result of clearer thinking or better habits. It is the culmination of an inner revolution, the visible fruit of a hidden process where old lies have been dismantled and new truth has taken root. This transformation is not about becoming perfect, it is about becoming whole. It is the unveiling of who you were always meant to be, freed from the weight of deception, healed from the scars of memory, and strengthened by the Spirit who renews from within. The crown of a transformed mind is dignity restored. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are no longer defined by the past. It is the resilience of someone who can face setbacks without being crushed, because their foundation no longer rests on shifting sand. It is the clarity of a person who can see through distraction and noise to focus on what truly matters. This crown is invisible to the eye, but unmistakable in presence. It shows itself in peace that cannot be stolen, in courage that rises in difficulty, and in hope that endures through every season. The journey here has not been easy. It required exposing strongholds, confronting unspoken memories, redirecting focus, repairing self-dialogue, silencing noise, redefining weakness, guarding attention, reshaping perspective, and surrendering desire. Each step stripped away another layer of deception and replaced it with truth. What once felt impossible became manageable. What once felt like chains became testimonies of freedom. And now, standing at the end of this path, you carry a mind no longer enslaved, but crowned with renewal. This crown is not meant for display, but for living. It equips you to make decisions with wisdom, to carry relationships with grace, and to walk through challenges with strength. It protects your identity from being stolen by lies and anchors your future in clarity. It is not a fragile ornament, but a symbol of authority. Authority over your thoughts, over your emotions, and over the influences that once controlled you. Guard this crown. Do not trade it for the fleeting approval of others, the endless noise of culture, or the weight of lies you once carried. The Spirit who renewed you will continue His work, but you must choose daily to protect what has been given. Each decision to embrace truth instead of deception, peace instead of fear, clarity instead of confusion, polishes this crown until it shines brighter. The journey of renewal is not about reaching a moment of perfection, but about walking daily in transformation. With each step, the crown grows more secure, and your life reflects more of the strength, clarity, and peace that only the Spirit can give. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Mentioned Isaiah 26:3. This is the crown of a transformed mind. It is the mark of someone who has walked through storms yet stands unshaken, someone who has faced lies yet clings to truth, someone who has surrendered weakness yet discovered strength. It is not just a renewed way of thinking, it is a renewed way of living, crowned in freedom that endures forever.